The mental mistake every investor makes without realizing it. 1. The setup. 4 investors, 4 stories. Let me tell you about 4 investors. Not the kind you see on magazine covers or finance podcasts. Real people with real lives, doing their best to make smart decisions. There's Robert, 67, retired, proud owner of a beautiful home he bought decades ago. He worked hard, saved diligently, and believed he had cracked the code to financial success. Then there's Karen, 50, a marketing executive with a solid career, 2 kids, and a lifestyle that looks perfectly balanced from the outside. Next, Marcus, 36, who's been hustling through the modern economy, paying off student loans, chasing promotions, and trying to figure out how to invest without feeling like he's already too late. And finally, Zoe, 23, the digital native. She's got a side hustle, an investment app, and a confidence that makes her look like she's already ahead of everyone else. 4 different people. 4 different decades. And yet, every single one of them fell into the same mental trap. Not a similar one. Not a vague, depends how you look at it, kind of trap. The exact same trap, just wearing different clothes depending on the generation. 2. The trap nobody sees coming. Before we name it, let's be clear, this isn't about being bad with money. Most people who fall into this trap are actually careful, thoughtful, and disciplined. They budget. They save. They think before they spend. The trap is sneakier than that. At some point in every investor's journey, the world around them defines what doing well is supposed to look like. A certain kind of portfolio. A certain kind of lifestyle. A certain kind of success story. And without anyone sitting you down and explaining it, you absorb it. We all do. It seeps in through culture, through peers, through what gets celebrated. And when you can finally afford to live that version of doing well, you do. It feels like progress. It feels responsible. But that's the trap. You start chasing the signal of success instead of the substance of success. 3. Robert, the homeowner investor. Robert grew up in a time when owning a home was the ultimate symbol of stability. His parents rented their whole lives, and the post-war dream was simple: buy a house, raise a family, retire comfortably. So when Robert got his first decent job and the bank approved him for a mortgage, he took it. That was the move. That was the formula. And for decades it worked. His house appreciated, his family thrived, and on paper, he looked wealthy. But here's the catch. Most of Robert's net worth sits inside 4 walls he lives in. He doesn't have the pension he expected. His savings are modest. Selling the house means leaving the life he built. The home wasn't the mistake. The belief that the home was the whole plan, that was the mistake. Robert spent decades maintaining the signal of wealth, the house, the garden, the upgrades, while underfunding the foundation of wealth, liquidity, diversification, and growth. 4. Karen, the lifestyle investor. Karen's trap was quieter. It didn't happen in one big decision. It happened in 100 small, reasonable ones. Every raise became a lifestyle upgrade. Every promotion justified a nicer car, a bigger house, a better vacation. She wasn't reckless. She was responsible. She earned it. She could afford it. But her expenses grew as fast as her income. Her savings rate barely moved. This is called lifestyle creep, the invisible inflation of your own expectations. It's the same trap as Robert's, just wearing business casual. Karen looks successful, and in many ways she is. But her financial freedom hasn't grown in proportion to her effort. She's living the arrival signal, not the arrival itself. 5. Marcus, the experience investor. Marcus belongs to the generation that watched the system collapse right as they entered adulthood. The 2008 crisis wiped out trust in traditional wealth building. So when he couldn't afford the things that used to signal success, a house, a pension, equity, he started spending on the things he could afford: experiences, travel, restaurants, concerts, moments that felt meaningful. And the culture backed him up. Spend on experiences, not things. Live your life. Money comes and goes. It sounded enlightened. But it was still the same trap. Marcus replaced building assets with collecting memories. Beautiful ones, yes, but memories don't compound. The mistake wasn't enjoying life. It was confusing experiences with progress. 6. Zoe, the performance investor. Zoe's generation is the most financially literate in history. She knows what an index fund is. She invests early. She talks about compound interest. But her version of the trap is the most visible one ever created, because it lives online. Her arrival signal isn't a house or a lifestyle. It's an aesthetic. It's the setup, the outfit, the apartment that looks good on camera. She's investing, yes, but she's also performing wealth. Posting about financial freedom while quietly spending on the image of it. Zoe isn't doomed. She's ahead of where Marcus was at her age. But the trap is there, waiting. 7. The common thread. 4 investors. 4 decades. 1 mental mistake. They all confused looking successful with being successful. They prioritized the signal of wealth over the substance of wealth. And here's the hardest part. It never feels wrong from the inside. It feels responsible. It feels earned. It feels like progress. That's why even smart, financially aware people fall into it. 8. The psychology behind the trap. This isn't about math. It's about identity. Money isn't just numbers, it's narrative. We use it to tell stories about who we are. The house says, I made it. The car says, I'm successful. The vacation says, I'm living fully. But the brain doesn't distinguish between signals and substance. It rewards both the same way. You feel the dopamine hit of progress even when the progress is cosmetic. That's the mental mistake every investor makes. Confusing emotional validation with financial growth. 9. Escaping the trap. Every generation has people who saw the trap and stepped around it. And when you look at what they did differently, it's surprisingly simple. They separated the signal from the substance. They decided consciously that they were willing to look less wealthy than they actually were, so their actual wealth could grow faster. They delayed the costume. They drove the older car. They skipped the unnecessary upgrades. They invested the difference. They built quietly while the world performed loudly. 10. The rule that changes everything. If you want one rule, here it is. Assets first, lifestyle second. Every time. Not forever. Just until your assets are doing enough work that your lifestyle is genuinely paid for. That's the move every generation that got it right figured out. Robert's version, keep the house, but fund the pension aggressively. Karen's version, pick one lifestyle upgrade per raise, invest the rest. Marcus's version, one big trip a year, not 4, invest the difference. Zoe's version, make the investing the thing you post about, not the aesthetic. 11. The modern investor's dilemma. Today's world makes escaping the trap harder than ever. Social media rewards appearance. Culture rewards consumption. And algorithms reward performance. But wealth doesn't care about likes. It compounds quietly, invisibly, in the background. The investors who win aren't the ones who look rich. They're the ones who act rich before they look it. 12. The real definition of success. Success isn't the car, the house, or the feed. It's the freedom to choose. To wake up and decide what your day looks like, not what your bills demand. That's real wealth. And it starts with one mental shift. Stop chasing the signal. Start building the substance. The turning point. Here's the crucial point. Realizing that the mental error isn't about money itself, but about how we think about money. Most investors believe they are making rational decisions, but in reality, they are responding to invisible pressures. Culture, comparison, status, validation. That's the turning point. When you understand that the game isn't about looking rich, but about being free, everything changes. You begin to see that the new car isn't progress, it's just consumption. That the installment trip isn't an investment, it's just an expensive memory. That the huge house isn't security, it's just tied-up assets. That posting about investments isn't the same as actually investing. The mental error that every investor makes without realizing it is confusing symbols with substance. And the turning point happens when you consciously decide that you prefer to accumulate substance, even if it means appearing less successful on the outside. That's where the newly rich differentiate themselves. They don't play to the gallery. They are playing for the future. The invisible cycle of error. The most dangerous aspect of this mental error is that it repeats itself silently. You don't realize you're trapped in it because, from the outside, everything seems right. Buying a house seems responsible. Upgrading the car seems fair. Traveling seems healthy. Posting about investments seems smart. But each of these choices, when made unconsciously, reinforces the invisible cycle, validating the signal instead of strengthening the substance. This cycle is addictive because it gives small emotional rewards. You feel like you're moving forward, but in reality, you're only maintaining the appearance of progress. Block 15. The comparison effect. Another fuel for this error is comparison. We don't measure our progress by what we actually have, but by what others seem to have. The neighbor bought a bigger house. The colleague posted photos of their trip. The friend showed off their new car. And without realizing it, you adjust your life so as not to fall behind. This is the mental error, confusing social status with financial progress. The newly rich who grow rapidly do the opposite. They accept appearing less on the outside, while building more on the inside. Block 16. The role of culture and media. Culture reinforces this error daily. Advertisements, social media, even casual conversations, everything pushes you to show off achievements. But true wealth is rarely visible. It's in assets, in investments, in freedom of time. And none of that generates likes. That's why the mental error is so common. Society rewards appearance, but the market rewards substance. Block 17. How to break the pattern. Escaping this error requires a conscious decision. Separate appearance from substance. Accept appearing less wealthy than you really are. Put assets before style. This doesn't mean living poorly. It means living with purpose. It means that every consumption choice is made after assets are already growing. Block 18. The investor's new game. The modern investor needs to play a different game. It's not about accumulating things. It's not about collecting baseless experiences. It's not about performing wealth online. It's about building systems that work silently. It's about letting money work while you live. It's about transforming discipline into freedom. Block 19. The simple test. Want to know if you're falling into this mental error? Take a simple test. If your main income disappeared tomorrow, how long could you maintain your current life? If the answer is a few months, you are living the sign, not the substance. This test reveals whether your wealth is real or just an appearance. Block 20. Conclusion and final call. The mental error that every investor makes without realizing it is simple. Confusing the appearance of progress with real progress. Robert did this with the house. Karen with the lifestyle. Marcus with the experiences. Zoe with online performance. And we all, at some point, do the same. The way out is clear. Assets first. Style second. Freedom as the ultimate goal. Because in the end, wealth isn't about appearances. It's about being able to choose. And that choice only exists when you build substance instead of just showing off.